Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the weekly mindfulness circle for achievement addicts. And today's topic is how to be mindful in facing stress and anxiety. This is the third or fourth week of the 7 weeks where we actually help each other to learn building up a practice of mindfulness in self-regulating ourselves in this very challenging and weird time. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Puja, a certified mindfulness coach based in Geneva, to lead us into the session. Welcome, Puja.
Thank you. So before we go into stress, today's session is really not about what stress is and what it's not, because I think we all know what stress is, but I'm more curious to learn from all of us. How does stress show up in your life? What are the ways it shows up in your life? So please speak up or use the chat. Please interact so we can, we are not a lot of people, so it's a really focused laser work amongst the three of us. So that's great as well. So how's stress showing up in your life right now? Let's start from there. What comes to your mind when you think about stress?
I know that I am feeling a bit stressful when my upper back is quite tense. So usually the area where it kind of tells me that I need to kind of do something to either stop or slow down is this area here. It's super tense, and also I also feel sometimes that it's almost like it's not that the heart skip a beat, but it's just harder to breathe.
Okay.
Basically.
Salut, Vanessa. We just started talking about, no worries. Thank you for being here. And we just started talking about, what is stress. We're not going to go into what stress is and, all the stuffs about how we get stressed and all that, but more really, having a conversations around maybe using the present moment and how stress shows up. And how do you notice that you are actually stressed? Do you even notice? So Astuti was just sharing that she realizes she's stressed when her back is stiff, or she can feel it there. And just one question, Astuti, did you always know about this?
No.
Before?
Okay. No. Yeah. I learned these things after my burnout.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And
for me, on the physical side, the feeling is more in my chest. It's like the pressure on the chest. But what is even more interesting is that on the behavioral side, I'm much more triggered and kind of giving short answers, being very short and less listening when I'm in stress.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Vanessa, how about you?
From a physical point of view, it's more around the belly, like just in the chest, but also just below the chest, around the stomach, and in the throat.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I can feel that it's really like, yeah.
Thank you. So we are really high-level stress managers and understandings of stress, right? Because many people don't even know, right? Like me, I only got to know about how it's actually the physical body when something stressful happens. And stress, when in the beginning, I thought stress was just, big stress, like coming to a deadline or not being able to finish your work or something like that. But then I realized that stress is acute stresses is happening all day long, right? So maybe running for the bus when it's like, oh my God, I have 1 minute, you start running. I didn't think those were like big stresses. But then over the years, I learned that these accumulation all day long, whether it's running to the bus or the tickets or some people crossing you off and then, so these are stresses that we have it all day long. And understanding your body sensations was new to me. And mine is really on the stomach. When I first learned that whatever that stress is or emotion is, learning that it starts in your body was really, really helpful. So another question for you guys, because you know where your bodily sensations is, how often are you able to use that message that the body is giving you, that information, to use it at that moment when you are really, like Erwan said, short answers and not so much in a listening mode. So maybe, responding quickly. So how much do you use this information that you get from your body? Like, okay, I'm starting to get stressed. I am stressed. What do you do next? Curious.
I know that the physical side, the feeling in the chest, I actually use myself, because that I'm immediately aware, and then I typically go for a walk or just have a quiet moment. The behavioral part is typically something I don't recognize as the first, but people who know me very well basically make sure that they give the feedback, right? So it's the internal signal and it's the external signal that is coming there.
I also, now I am much more aware of it. Even then, I don't attend to it 100% of the time. So probably about 70% of the time I notice, particularly when I'm doing sessions with clients, because I need to recenter myself quite quickly. Yeah. So there are moments when I'm like, okay, let me just, I sit with my clients, just breathe for a second. It's just me trying to self-regulate myself also. But I had received feedback before I became very aware of this, that I stopped breathing when something external happened. So a couple of colleagues in the past that said, okay, breathe. I'm like, huh? Oh yes. It's almost like the breathing completely somehow skipped. Yeah. And that was very interesting because I didn't realize that. But and definitely I was not acting out on the symptoms in the past, let alone tuning into what the body was actually telling me. Yeah.
Thank you. Vanessa, would you like to share? You're mute. You're on mute, Vanessa.
I had a very stressful moment last week, and I just felt that I needed to go out and to walk as much as I can.
Thank you. So obviously, I mean, we all have stress all day long, small stresses. Accumulation of the stress leads us to, burnout. There are other kinds of consequences. But most of the time, it's really stress itself does not stress us, right? Situation itself does not stress us. It's mostly the definition we give to the stress, like how we translate a situation. So it's our own attitude towards stress that most of the time stresses us more. Okay. So what I've seen myself doing nowadays, something I discovered recently is, so I used to come from work, and the first thing I'm doing with my son is, are you home? And he's like, yeah, I'm playing on video game. I'm like, okay, it's time. And I come home and I just open his door when I get in, and then I'm like, get out of there, blah, blah, blah. So I'm really getting stressed out, but I never saw that as a stress, right? And then I realized afterwards, because somebody, pointed it out, It's like, look, it's the definition. So I wasn't stressed all day long at work. Everything went fine. But the fact that he's not studying and he's not, he spent so much time on the video game, it accumulates. So my behavior was, I was not even aware that I'm not even saying hello. So he's like, you just come in, you just scream at me, everything is wrong. And that's not helpful. So for a long period of time, yes, this feedback I have been receiving. And I guess it really depends on how long are you going to have the same behavior, right? So it stresses myself, it stresses my son, and then we create an environment where I am putting this ball of energy, let's look at it as a ball of energy of dissatisfaction or expectations. So, expectations, I had an expectation that he's going to come and put that away as soon as I come in and say hello. It didn't meet that. So we go around throwing this stress ball from one to another, and then we don't know how to manage. So it goes around people. So if you think about it, that's what we are doing. I wasn't aware, even though I know that was not a great behavior. But then I think it really depends on what are you going to do about it? Because the people who loves us will most of the time tolerate our behaviors, right? But the key question here that I ask myself is, how much are they going to tolerate? Because that takes a toll on your relationship, whether it's at home. Obviously, at work, it's less because we don't fully show up in our being, we are more in control. But how much is that going to take a toll, right? So it's really also understanding and being mindful of what are the behaviors that we're going to change, especially with loved ones. I really emphasize on the loved ones because we all know that in the family, we have no choice in a way. We do have a choice. We can disown our family and get rid of them, or just cut them off, whatever. But I know that that's overall not the intention, right? So it's really to see what we can do. So let's talk about maybe some of the ways that we ourselves struggle, maybe, whether it's at work or home, and maybe have a conversation or just a contemplation around what else could help us, right? So for me, this one behavior that I'm trying to deal with is being very mindful of not telling my son 10,000 times the same thing. Whether it's, have you eaten, have you done your homework, where are you going, who are you eating? So that's just a simple one way. How can you be mindful about that? So one thing is, I have told myself, okay, so I said, okay, I'm gonna behave better. I am preaching mindfulness and present and being present and being positive to other people. But his feedback is, you constantly focus on the negatives. You come here, tell me what's wrong. And I was like, no, I don't do that because I'm always positive. So it's not true. But then I had to be true to myself to say, okay, yeah, that's true to a certain extent. So maybe you have something like that you are working on, or something that you are trying to find your own way and not having a breakthrough. So would you be okay that we use this space maybe to have that,
that conversation? I'm happy to share. So I think growing up, the way I was raised, leaving a conversation, especially with somebody older than you, like parents or something, it's a big no-no. It's a sign of disrespect. Mm-hmm. So the biggest learning that I have had in my adult life now is to change that belief. Because as you both said earlier, you just went for a walk. And for me, this was the most difficult. It's almost like I have to stay in the conversation until somebody says, okay, let's take it a break. Because I was raised to not to leave the conversation until the one above you, rank-wise or age-wise, or somebody who actually you love, but higher in the hierarchy, in this case, my parents or my grandparents or my aunties, uncles, whoever, says it's time to go. So it took me a long time, but I recognize now that, especially with the closest people, sometimes leaving the conversation for the time being is actually the best way to deal with this, because I was in no place to take in anything or say anything, and so is the other person, especially when the adult is having a tantrum. Because I recently experienced this. An adult is having a tantrum, and it was very uncomfortable. But I remember I said, okay, I'll come back again later, and I just leave. And then I came back a couple of hours later to talk about it. So for me, that was the most difficult, to allow myself to do that. Yeah.
Any thoughts? Any other?
When I'm stressed, I mean, the case I presented earlier was more about the situation and I was on my own. But if it's in a relationship and with someone, I tend to internalize the stress, and then I start having lots of difficulties to express it. Or even to really put words on, just as you have explained, I'm leaving this conversation for now and I will come back. It's extremely difficult for me. So I will really close myself, and then it becomes very difficult for the others, but also for me. Yeah, so that's how I react.
Thank you, Vanessa. And when you are like that, what's your body positions? Like when we're in these situations, right? There's a stressful or a situation, conversation, being with people. Let's just be mindful of how your body reaction is. Like you said, Vanessa, you are closed off, right? So
I am the opposite.
If you think about it, how does your body go? Can you maybe notice that?
Yes. For me, in the past, I become coming closer to the face of the person who I disagree. So instead of retrieving, I become very aggressive. Not very, but I become more aggressive. So that also felt very, very uncomfortable for me. But that was the tendency, is just let's come closer until we call it a day. Yeah, it's like until you call it out or we call it out. And but afterwards, it just drain of energy and headache and all kinds of depletion of energy, energetical depletion, basically in the body.
Thank you. So the reason why I'm just asking this question, Erwan, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Erwan. So the reason why I'm asking this is our body, again, it's speaking to us, right? So if you are aware of that, and like, for example, in my situation with my son, I work a lot with my mental. So more than body, I notice my body sensations, and I work a lot with my mental. So what do I really mean by that is I'm really very conscious of, I put a goal, and this is for high achievers as well, okay, I'm going to work on this. And for that week, for that day, I'm very, very aware of that. And then I focus on my body posture, my voice, tone of my voice. I try to be very in tune to what I'm working on. And then I catch myself. So the beauty of it is I catch throughout the day, throughout the week, because I put this in my frame, in my mind that I'm going to work on this. It really helps me to see myself, because the awareness part is there, right? So the mindfulness really, what is it doing to us when we are even just speaking about the subject? It's just bringing it in surface. This is what I'm trying to deal with. This is what I'm trying to work with it. And when we are really intentional, okay, this is a behavior I really need to work on, right? So if it's helping, if you are out there and putting yourself, if it helps and that went fine, obviously we're not going to have this conversation. But otherwise, if we are having headaches and it's physically impacting and relationships are impacting, so like I'm just going to use what you shared, Vanessa, because it's a really good example, right? So if we don't know how to do it, what do you think you could do when you were in that situation? What do you do normally, Vanessa, to get yourself out? Or maybe you don't know, and that's perfectly fine, right? That's why we are here.
And you just mentioned the headache. In fact, that's the way I probably go out. It's I keep this situation inside, and then I start having migraines for 2 days.
Yes. So first of all, just notice, okay? Bring your awareness back to your body, okay? Because again, the body is like a dashboard in your car, right? When the petrol is not there, the car is going to say, put some petrol. Or if some part is not working in the car, it gives you signal. Body is in a way functioning in that way. It's giving you information prior to the stresses. Okay, so we know, I'm sure we are all aware of what stresses us, right? So we know that certain colleagues gets into our nerves, some people in the family gets into our nerves, or we know that we're going to have difficult conversation and we always know that it's not going to be fun, we know. Or this person doesn't like this, so even if I say that word, that person is going to jump, or he's always right, so we know. So try to find out what stresses you, and a little bit of preparation helps. So for example, what I really mean by this is, let's say you're going to call your family, right? And if you have, like Astuti was saying, if you're going to talk to your elders and you have this hierarchy, prepare yourself a little bit. Have that mindful moment to say, okay, I know these people is going to trigger me or touch the buttons that makes us, react. Be mindful of that. And then remind yourself to breathe. Okay, again, mindful practice. And just understand that you are working on yourself, not them. Okay, I find it very useful for me always to remind myself that this practice is my own personal journey. It is not other people's journey. So if other people are acting up, it's not my job to go and make them correct or tell them we are not doing the right thing. I challenge myself to say, how am I going to be, right? This person I want to be, this conversation I'm going to have, because I'm already putting that mindset. Okay. So before going to that conversation, before going to that situation, prepare yourself a little bit, just a mindful moment. And if it's a call, sometimes it also helps just imagining how that call would go in your way. So having that mindset intention really, really helps. So Vanessa, speaking to you, what do we do in that situation? So notice your body, okay? Notice what other signals. So what you can do is you can go back, think about, some of the big stressful moments in your life. Notice what your reaction was, or your favorite. We all have our favorite mode of operation, right? We have our system in place. So most of the time we do the same thing. So maybe if it's just, closing up and you are not saying anything and you just sit there. Notice your expressions, okay? Because your expressions is having an impact around the people. So the moment I see somebody is like closed off, you are giving that signal. Sometimes people can't read that, but some people can read that, and then that affects your conversations, your discussions. So just be mindful, take a note and just put, and I'm sure you will find some common themes in these different situations. Go back a little, okay, maybe in your childhood, maybe in your adulthood, maybe in your professional life, maybe in your social setup. So you will notice that, this is a behavior that we have, and this is our way of responding. And now I invite you to maybe, we're going to do an exercise right away. So you can maybe use this very simple. So in the first couple of sessions, we talked about 3-minute mindful breathing. right? So just looking around. So that is one thing that you could maybe play around with, Vanessa, if you are in that situation. Okay, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. I internalize everything. First of all, you got to release it with your body. You got to change that energy. Okay, so that's why walking really, really helps, because you are actually standing up, changing your energy from being stressed, from being, back pain, having this stomach thing. So really, the first key thing here is to change your energy. So moving your hands, walking, drinking, just consciously making an effort to change body movement. Okay. And in this situation, if you can't go out in the nature, or if you can't go out of the room, sometimes what I like to do, and this happens in small meeting rooms where there are more people than you can fit in, I like to give this example, which I usually use, is I just drop my pen on the floor, for example. Nobody will notice that it's not normal. And I just slowly go down, sorry, I dropped my pen. It's totally normal. It happens in a meeting. And that also is helping you change that emotional or that stressful or that stuckness. Sometimes we get stuck and we don't know how to get out of it. Okay, so use physical movement. Okay, sometimes it just helps by just your hands. Nobody's looking at your hand if it's under the table, if it's a meeting, if it's in your, just move your hands, or count one. Just what it does is physiologically it changes your state of being. Because when we are stressed, we know it's either on the stomach, on the chest, wherever, and it just goes up, right? And when that shooting is happening automatically, stress is happening automatically, it just goes to your brain. It hijacks your wise, your analytical brain. And this is because of the fight and flight mode, right? So you just have to fight, push things away. But we don't have to do that anymore. We are not in cave period where we had a tiger or animal that were going to eat us, but we still have that reaction. So in stressful moments, we still have that strong reaction, even to the most simple things, and we don't have to do that. Just understanding that sometimes helps us. It's not that you can't control. It's just physiologically sometimes that is so fast that we have no control over that. So it's nothing wrong with us. It's not that we are not a good person or we cannot control and I'm a bad. No, it just happens really, really fast. Mindfulness is something that is going to help you slow that down. So use your breath. Another thing to do physically is, just massage your hands or move your legs or turn, just do anything that works for you. If you have a glass of water, glass of something, drink it. Or maybe just tell people if that's something you can do, like, hey guys, I just need to stand up, just let me stretch. And you are, by doing that, you are also allowing other people in the room to take those moments, okay? Especially if it's something that is really creating a stressful moment for everybody. Like when we go into discussions, Astuti and me, we were talking about when we are at work, the discussions, the disagreements keeps building. And if we don't have anyone who can break that, it really doesn't go anywhere. We just don't get to the bottom of it. So I was giving an example, like I've been in situations where I'm not the manager, but I've taken the steps to break that moment. Somebody needs to break that moment. And if you are the one suffering from that stressful moment, just be that person, because it's going to be good for you and it's going to be good for the group. Okay. So on conversations, I have taken the steps, even if it was not my role. I have said to people like, I'm really sorry, our conversation is just going round and round. And especially there was like a time difference, we were in the Pacific calling our colleagues in the Pacific Island. So there was 12 hours difference. So it was getting late for them. We woke up early. So I stepped in to say, hey, we're going to stop the conversation here because we are not coming to the point. We haven't discussed really about the point we wanted to discuss. So what I'm going to do is, it's getting late there. I really apologize to, cut the meeting short, and we'll send you a couple of points by email, and we'll reschedule a call next day. And I want to really focus on blah, 1, 2, 3. These are things we want to get to. So this is also another way you could maybe use to break those cycles. Now, let's get into some, this is like progressive muscle meditation. I'm sure you've done it in many, many setups, but let's do it again, okay? And then if you think this is something you could try, you can see it for yourself and maybe use it as if it's useful for you. And this is going to be a little bit longer, but again, this can be done in a very 1 or 2 minutes in that moment where other people are speaking and you really need to get out of that, I don't know what to do, I'm closing off, I don't know how to deal with the situation moment, okay? So, and this kind of relaxation, progressive muscle relaxation, is used many times medically in stress reduction and anxiety, okay? It's really, really shown results on this. So all we are going to do is, if you start practicing this, it just helps you relax from that tense moment. And if you practice frequently, then obviously it becomes your habit, and you don't even have to think about it. You will be doing it naturally. So I invite you to just pay special attention to the feeling of releasing tension, okay, in each muscle, and the resulting feeling of relaxation. That's all we're going to do here. And you can open your eyes and be looking. I'm just reading my script. So let's just sit in a comfortable position. Close your eyes, open your eyes, whatever feels right for you. And let's begin by taking a deep breath. And as you take this deep breath, notice the feeling of air filling your lungs, okay? Hold your breath for a few seconds. 1, 2, 3, we can count it, and release the breath slowly and count to 4 or 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If 5 is too much, just keep it to 4, whatever works for you. And just let that tension leave your body. We're going to do this one more time. So the idea here is really to notice, as you breathe in, notice how you're filling your lungs with the air. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, you can count that. And release it slowly. And as you release, just notice how your body is letting that tension leave your body. And how do you feel? Really tuning into that feeling, sensations. One more time, take in another deep breath. Hold it, you can count in your mind. And release, slow and long breath. And one more time, let's try to do it even slower. Fill in the lungs with the air and hold the air. And slowly release it. Just notice how you feel in your body. Now, I invite you to move your attention to the feet. Okay, bring your awareness to the feet and begin to tense your feet by curling your toes and arc of your feet. So if it's on your floor, just, strongly tense it as much as you can and hold it for a couple of seconds, and now release it. And as you release, just notice how your feet feel. Just release the tension in your foot. One more time, just tense it up, your feet, curl it as much as you can. My feet is like pointing on my toes. Just tensing your muscles really, really tight as much as you can, and then release it. So building that tension and then releasing it. Now, begin your focus, bring your focus on your lower leg, okay, the calves and all of that. So tense those muscles, like tense it in your calves, hold them tightly. Pay attention to the feeling of tension. Notice how it feels when you are tensing up your muscle, and release the tension from your lower legs. And again, notice the feeling of relaxation. And don't forget to breathe and just notice your breath as well. Now tense your arms all the way from your hands to your shoulders, like all your hands. You can even make a fist and squeeze all the way up your arm and hold it. And release. And notice the feeling of relaxation in your fingers, your hands, your arms, your shoulders. And notice how your arms feel limp and at ease. Just notice that. Now let's move to your neck and your head. Tense your face. You can make faces, neck, distorting the muscles around your eyes, mouth, just tensing that whole hands and upper neck and head, all of that part of your body. And release the tension. Again, notice the new feeling of relaxation. Tense your entire release and just notice how that relaxation is moving through your body. Now we're going to finally tense our entire body, okay? So from the legs, your feet, your hands, your shoulders, your back, everything, tense it. Like I'm looking funny, I'm sure, but tense it up, it's okay. Your stomach, and release it. Let your hands release, you can just shake it off. And notice how your body goes a bit limp. And again, paying attention to the feeling of relaxation. And noticing if there's anything different the difference between the tensing up of your body and releasing. Okay, great. So how did that feel? Is this something that you use? I'm sure you know it's nothing new. We do it in many setups, whether it's gym or physical, or sometimes we just go like this. So how did that feel? Go ahead, please, anybody.
I think when you started with the feet, I thought I can do that in any setting. Exactly. Or even in a meeting, I was thinking of that kind of setting. But when you started with the face, I thought this will be difficult.
Of course, I'm just doing it here, but
no. Joke aside, no, I think it actually it's an exercise I didn't know. There's a lot of the feeling is very close to the kind of grounding exercises Where for me, for example, what helps in a setting, and when you said like kind of, hey, you're in a setting, you need, I just go up and I stand against the wall, and that's also kind of having, it's mentally giving a different perspective, and at the same time it's giving me physical calmness.
Exactly. And I've seen at work many people, because sometimes you can't go out, so it also helps just to come out of the meeting room and just take around, around your desk, or in that office space. You don't have to think that, oh my God, I can't go out now, I can't do anything. Don't be frozen by that, but just walk around, just go to the bathroom, or just go to the cafeteria and come back. Sometimes I also go steps up and down, depending on how much I need that releasing factor. So this is something that, you don't have to use your face, but something that you can do is like, if it's in the office, you can do it discreetly, because our jaws, our face is also tensed, right? The forehead and expression is shown, especially if we are with people. And if you are really at a managerial level, and you are making decisions, and you have your staffs there, it really impacts, right? As a leader, your facial expressions, everything that you do is impacting other people, not just you, but all of us, right? So it's really, really important. And I think we got to get out of this. I really encourage people to get out of this thing like, I can't do this, it's not normal. We have to take that now. It's no longer working by being quiet and not doing anything. And I think as anybody, this is a personal, courageous thing that I invite people to do, and take that small step to know that everybody's stressed, to know that sometimes conversations are difficult. But if at least there is one person who can release a little bit of that, that also helps. So another way to do this, so that's muscle testing, and you can just, as everyone said, use your feet or just your hands. Sometimes just, doing like this, nobody's going to see you. It releases tension. Okay, if it's not at a workplace, you've noticed that, people who have animals, just why do people do this all the time? So there is, it releases, I don't know what it's called, the serotonin, or the word oxytocin. I haven't, oxytocin. All of these chemicals are being, and this is, I heard in one of the neuroscience person telling that they did a study, and that's the reason why when people are stroking animals, they feel calm, they feel less stressed, and they feel present. Okay, so these are things you can just, massage your hands. You can just, sometimes just headache, if it's headache, it's okay to do that, right? In meetings, nobody's gonna, just like this, nobody's gonna think it's weird. But really, stress, again, just to remind ourselves, stress in itself cannot do much, as far as I've understood. Stress happens when we are not mindful, when we are not conscious, when we are not prepared also. Let's be honest, many times we don't give ourselves the time to prepare, the time to mentally set ourselves for success, or ourselves to become the better version of ourselves, or to be who we are. Sometimes we just get attacked and then freeze. But basically, we get stressed because there is expectations, our own expectations and other people's expectations. We get stressed because we don't know how to set boundaries. We don't know how to say no to people. So we keep getting lots of stuffs, and at the end of the day, it's us who puts ourselves in these situations, right? So taking that personal responsibility, what can I do? Planning a little bit, just being mindful can really, really help. So, and then I wanted to also touch base on the anxiety. Anxiety is, stress is happening from most of the time from external factors, right? Situation, people, stuffs outside. Anxiety is more your own internal, mostly worrying in the future. Okay, So if you are in that mode, just be mindful that anxiety mostly comes from your own internal thinking. And most of the time it's related to something that you're worried about. So just be mindful of what am I worried about? What's going on? Can it be, what can I do? Another really good question to ask is, what can I do? Because we all know that, worries is not going to solve any problem. It's that one small action, one physical action to do something about it that's going to change that worry behavior. Now, we also know that there are people who naturally worry a lot, and that's okay. Like, many times it's parents. They just worry for everything and nothing. And I like to call upon my mom, who worries for things that has no need to be worried about. So I have to come in terms, because she stresses me out, right? Sometimes, or parents or other people. Sometimes you just have to know that, some people love to get stressed and to worry, and that's their thing. You don't have to take it on. Just because they come with their worries, you gotta put boundaries. This is not mine. I'm okay. Like I tell my mom, I'm okay. You can worry about stuffs that you really don't need to worry. You are retired and now you need to look for something to keep yourself busy. So I use also humor, right? I use humor a lot for many of these stressful things, just laughing. And Vanessa, use humor if that's something that speaks to you. Come up with lots of jokes and say, I'm going to tell a joke because I'm really stressed and I don't know what to do. So this joke really made me laugh. Let me see if it, I think it's time to be more creative and come out of our fear zone of what people think and how that's going to impact. Because you and me and all of us know that humor always works, right? And if it doesn't work, then it's their problem. It doesn't harm to just have a bit of a light moment in a very difficult conversation. Another thing that I really loved that my manager taught me was, if it's a conversation that's going blah, blah, blah everywhere, but not to the bottom line, be the person to bring everybody back to, why are we having this conversation? Why are we having this negotiation? Why are we even fighting, each one of us, with our own perspectives and with our own goals and objectives and agendas? What are we trying to achieve here collectively, right? Because whatever that work is, we are all there because we are working for the same goal, same purpose. So reminding why we are here, and this was, Vanessa, this was for grand negotiations where, M&E, finance person, procurement, all of them are coming up with their own why this should be cut down budget and why that. And this manager used to just say one thing, to say, hey guys, we are 3 hours meeting, we haven't come to the bottom. Why are we here? Why are we even fighting? And he would just be quiet. And that, because he was a manager, that had kind of a weight. So people would just be quiet and we were like, yeah, we are trying to, do the best for our program. And then that would just kind of cut the noise and bring back people to that one purpose. Why are we here? Why are we negotiating? Why are we trying to cut budgets? Why are we trying to, and then say, okay, what is that one thing that you really must need from each other, right? Win-win. So breaking those cycles of awkward moments, stressful moments can also help. And this week I learned from Vision, Astuti. Vision is from Mind Valley. You can please check that out. I love this website, Mind Valley, and both me and Astuti that's how we met. So he was saying, he's obviously an entrepreneur and leading 400 people, staffs and all of that. I really love this leadership idea where it's not just for managers, but anybody in a group, whether it's in family or friends. He said, if there's something that's making people awkward, you see, when things like this happen, there's a silent moment, right? Like, and we don't know what to do. So nobody says anything, but we all stay in that awkward moment. So he's like, call that out, right? So be someone like a Yoda, in Star Trek, or be like Dalai Lama. I like Dalai Lama, so I will use Dalai Lama. To call that out, or to kind of say, if something was really wrong, something, was not the right thing to say, just gently ask maybe questions like, oh, I hear this, did you mean that? Right? Because then we'll all go thinking like, oh my God, can you imagine this person said this or that? Stressful moment. We don't know how to react. We don't know. And then we all leave the room feeling horrible, not feeling great, right? So it's each one of us to take that responsibility to do maybe just one thing. Oh, I hear you say repeating is really a good, powerful way, rephrasing what the person said. Because sometimes when we say things and we don't hear back what we said, it's two different things. But sometimes when somebody says the same thing in a group, repeats it, it's like, oh, maybe I didn't mean to say that. I don't think I wanted to say that. And I've got myself many times. I come across like blah. And then somebody says, did you mean that? I'm like, no, that's not at all what I wanted to say. Actually, what I meant to say is, okay. So maybe use those skills and put yourself out there, because the world needs us. Really, honestly, we all need us to step up. Honestly, just step up from our old being quiet and being struck. Encourage small little steps. I'm not saying big, but try little different things, and just be mindful that at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We all want to be good. We all want to feel good. We all want to come out of a meeting feeling like, yay, it was a great meeting. We achieved something. And if there are stressful moments, we all don't know how to react because everybody's different and we are always in different spaces. But allowing people to say, okay, let's take 1 minute deep breath. I learned that it's going to help, just using humor again. So just small tweaks in your way of being and see how it goes. Just experiment. And let's leave this stress and anxiety session. I hope it was helpful. It was very, very helpful, this very intimate interactions for myself. And I think, Astuti, what do you think? Was it helpful for everybody?
Absolutely. I thank you, Puja, for that. As I was going through this session with you, I started to realize, because I wasn't mindful about myself, I wasn't able to interpret the behaviors of the others in the meeting when actually everybody was reacting in a certain way that everybody's stressing out. Mm-hmm. So if I had known it back then, I probably could have run the meeting differently, where everybody doesn't get stressed out for a long time. I think it's a big realizations. Yes, very useful.
Thank you. There are many other techniques, but the session is short, so
the rest is for next week.
Yes. So for next week, now that we're talking about next week you are going to talk about other intense emotions. Yes, how to face and manage or walk through it or breathe through it. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yes. So we'll go one step deeper in the next session, and we'll really focus on difficult emotions. Okay. So if you want, if you are listening to the recording, just think about some difficult situations and how you don't know how to deal with it. So we're going to go one step deeper and use compassion and kindness and mindfulness attitudes and mindfulness principles of mindfulness, which is open mind, curiosity, being present. Don't be afraid, because emotions are just emotions. So we'll go a little bit deeper, just one step deeper into what you can do without really getting frightened or run away from it.
Perfect.
Great. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed our session.
Thank you.
And see you next week. Have a wonderful practice. Please do use something new that you learned maybe, and would love to hear back if it how that worked for you.
Yes.
Thank
you. Thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Have a great week. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.